Economy of Australia. A wealthy country. Australia has a market economy, a high GDP per capita, and a relatively low rate of poverty. In terms of average wealth, Australia ranked second in the world after Switzerland from 2013 until 2018. In 2018, Australia overtook Switzerland and became the country with the highest average wealth. Australia's relative poverty rate is 13.6%. It was identified by the Credit Suisse Research Institute as the nation with the highest median wealth in the world and the second highest average wealth per adult in 2013. The Australian dollar is the currency for the nation, including Christmas Island, Cocos, Keeling Islands, and Norfolk Island, as well as the independent Pacific Island states of Kiribati, Nauru, and Tuvalu. With a 2006 merger of the Australian Stock Exchange and the Sydney Futures Exchange, the Australian Securities Exchange became the ninth largest in the world. Australian Energy Resources and Major Export Ports Map ranked 5th in the Index of Economic Freedom, 2017. Australia is the world's 13th largest economy and has the 10th highest per capita GDP, nominal at US $55,692. The country was ranked 3rd in the United Nations 2017 Human Development Index. Melbourne reached top spot for the 4th year in a row on The Economist's 2014 list of the world's most livable cities, followed by Adelaide, Sydney, and Perth in the 5th, 7th, and 9th places respectively. Total government debt in Australia is about a $190 billion, 20% of GDP in 2010. Australia has among the highest house prices and some of the highest household debt levels in the world. An emphasis on exporting commodities rather than manufactured goods has underpinned a significant increase in Australia's terms of trade since the start of the 21st century, due to rising commodity prices. Australia has a balance of payments that is more than 7% of GDP negative and has had persistently large current account deficits for more than 50 years. Australia has grown at an average annual rate of 3.6% for over 15 years in comparison to the OECD annual average of 2.5%. Australia was the only advanced economy not to experience a recession due to the global financial downturn in 2008-2009. However, the economies of 6 of Australia's major trading partners were in recession, which in turn affected Australia, significantly hampering its economic growth. From 2012 to early 2013, Australia's national economy grew, but some non-mining states and Australia's non-mining economy experienced a recession. Buildings and equipment of a large mining operation, the Boddington Gold Mine in Western Australia, is the nation's largest open-cut mine. The Hawke government floated the Australian dollar in 1983 and partially deregulated the financial system. The Howard government followed with a partial deregulation of the labour market and the further privatization of state-owned businesses, most notably in the telecommunications industry. The indirect tax system was substantially changed in July 2000 with the introduction of a 10% goods and services tax, GST. In Australia's tax system, personal and company income tax are the main sources of government revenue. As of June 2021, there were 13,154,200 people employed, either full-time or part-time, with an unemployment rate of 4.9%. Data released in mid-November 2013 showed that the number of welfare recipients had grown by 55%. In 2007, 228,621 new start unemployment allowance recipients were registered, a total that increased to 646,414 in March 2013. According to the Graduate Career Survey, full-time employment for newly qualified professionals from various occupations has declined since 2011, but it increases for graduates 3 years after graduation. As of 2020, interest rates in Australia were set at a record low of 0.1%, targeting an inflation rate of 2 to 3%. The service sector of the economy, including tourism, education, and financial services, accounts for about 70% of GDP. Rich in natural resources, Australia is a major exporter of agricultural products, particularly wheat and wool, minerals such as iron ore and gold, and energy in the forms of liquefied natural gas and coal. Although agriculture and natural resources account for only 3% and 5% of GDP respectively, they contribute substantially to export performance. Australia's largest export markets are Japan, China, the United States, South Korea, and New Zealand. Australia is the world's fourth largest exporter of wine, and the wine industry contributes a $5.5 billion per year to the nation's economy. Access to high capacity in Australia is much higher than world average. In 2016, Australia had 12.3 global hectares of high capacity per person within its territory, much more than the world average of 1.6 global hectares per person. In 2016, Australia used 6.6 global hectares of high capacity per person, their ecological footprint of consumption. This means they use half as much high capacity as Australia contains. As a result, Australia is running a high capacity reserve. In 2020, the Australian Council of Social Service released a report stating that relative poverty was growing in Australia, with an estimated 3.2 million people, or 13.6% of the population, living below an internationally accepted relative poverty threshold of 50% of the country's median income. It also estimated that there were 774,000, 17.7%, children under the age of 15 in relative poverty. Australia's creative and cultural sectors contribute significantly to its national economy. The Australian Copyright Council (ACC) has been monitoring the industry using the WIPO guided framework since 2011, with additional reports published in 2012 and 2014. The most recent study, published in 2017, claimed that the copyright industries contributed $122.8 billion to the Australian economy in 2016, amounting to 7.4% of Australia's total economic output. The 2016 figure represented an increase of $8.5 billion compared to 2011, with growth in value added of 1.4% per annum since 2011. Further, it found that the creative sectors collectively generated more economic output than the manufacturing, healthcare, and mining sectors in 2016, and moved from being the seventh largest Australian industry in 2011 to the third largest in 2016.